Lake Erie. So cozy.
Summer. Beach. Warm. Fresh water.
Fall. Cool. Ghost town. Spooky.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I'm Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Lake Eerie. Eerie is a film that was released in 2016, although the back of this says 2015. So I'm assuming it probably got some festival releases in 2015 and then got its official video release in 2016. This is distributed by Gravitas Venturas, which is a distribution company that I talk about a lot on the channel because they do only independent films and only low budget films, and they're the best chance of putting out a good quality film. I'd say they're about 50-50 still, but compared to other low budget distribution companies, Gravitas Venturas seems to be one that's very trustworthy. And I found this, and I'm very familiar with Lake Erie from the Canadian side. This is an American film, but there's a whole with Lake Erie, there's the whole Canada side, and then there's the whole United States side underneath. This is a Michigan film. It takes place in a little tiny town called LaSalle, Michigan, which is basically in between Detroit and Toledo, just above Toledo. And basically what we have going on here is we have this girl named Kate, and she moves to LaSalle. It's a cottage country, basically. Very familiar location. I definitely bought this film for the title, and the atmosphere and the mood in this film is fantastic, especially with cottage countries, cottage towns on the lake kind of thing. It reminds me of every single lake town there is that I've ever been to here in Canada on Lake Erie. It looks just like that. So I loved the atmosphere. It just looked super familiar. It looked super close to home, even though it's not close to home. And this girl Kate moves into this cottage house after suffering a tragedy. She lost her husband named John, and she moves there. She's having some mental struggles, but she wants to kind of heal herself and heal herself by herself. So she moves there. She has a neighbor named Eliza. I think it's Eliza. This is the kind of cat lady, very uber friendly kind of neighbor, kind of a female Ned Flanders-ish. And she's always coming over. She brings poppy seed muffins. She borderline lets herself in. She'll knock on the door and then kind of just walk in kind of thing. And she's very overly friendly, and Kate is in a state where she kind of wants to be left alone, but this woman's always there, and she's very nice. She's very friendly. She's not she's just overbearing. She's not necessarily creepy. She's just overbearing, like I said. And we find out that there's strange things happening in this house that Kate moved into. She's suffering from nightmares constantly of her husband John. Really weird ones. There's this one nightmare in particular where out of nowhere her husband will come in, and her husband John brings this girl, and he's like, hey, this has always been a fantasy of mine, so I want to introduce you to this girl right here. And she's this beautiful girl. And then the Kate and the random girl he brought just start making out on the bed, and he sits down and he's just watching. And it just comes out of nowhere. And then she wakes up, and they turn into demons in the dream, and she wakes up and she has violent nightmares where John comes in and slits her throat and stuff like that. This house has a history. Basically, there's this guy named Harrison, and Harrison was a adventurer, explorer in the 1800s. And this house, basically, he's tied to it. I guess he lived there way back when, and he had his spirit is there. This film deals with interesting subject matters. It has an element of religion to it. There is a Bible quote at the beginning of the film, and it has to do with this silver rope tied to water, and if the silver oak disappears, follow the light to the water, and then you drink the water and you shall be redeemed, or something like that. Something along those lines. And then this film kind of deals with like a limbo element, and eventually it starts to reveal that this house kind of holds this dimension that's in between the next life and our present worldly life kind of thing. And Kate, I mean, gets wrapped up in between that limbo thing with the dreams and this girl who's the granddaughter of Eliza, who's the neighbor. Her name is Autumn. Very beautiful girl. Both Kate and Autumn are beautiful, but Autumn specifically has this like cute personality to her. She has like red hair and like the most beautiful eyes ever. Maybe her name is back here. Anne Leigh Cooper is the actress's name. Beautiful, beautiful actress. Most beautiful eyes ever. And she's very bubbly, and she's obsessed with Harrison's story, and she loves his history and wants to research everything. So she starts to research artifacts in the house and, teach Kate about it. And she's so obsessed with like what these artifacts mean and everything. And there's this locket, which eventually, by the third act and the climax of the movie, the locket has the power to take Kate straight into this limbo world, which she does, and then she meets Harrison there, and she tries to save Harrison because Harrison's been stuck in this limbo world for however long. And I'm not going to spoil the ending, but there's twists and turns. There's a big twist at the ending that I doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest, but I guess with a few viewings, it'll probably make more. Lance Hendrickson makes a cameo in here as Kate's father. So he plays Kate's father. It's cool to see him. And there's probably other familiar faces that I just didn't recognize, but Lance Hendrickson is one of the biggest in here that I'm like, yeah, that's awesome to see him in here. And he doesn't show up for like 2 seconds either. He has a few scenes that are good with Kate. But this film is total mood, total atmosphere. I like the story a lot. The acting is what can get really rocky. It's not always on par. And some people argue that was done on purpose because the characters are supposed to be awkward. But I think if I'm going to nitpick at the weakest element of the film, I would say probably the performances and the direction when it came to the characters themselves are probably the weakest. But I love the location and I love the cinematography. There's one jump scare in here that's amazing. That's very Mike Flanagan Absentia, which is probably my favorite independent low budget film ever made, and it's specifically because of the jump scares in there, because they don't pop out at you. They're in the background in the corner of your eye, and it's like you blink and you miss it. So there's one here where she like bends down to pick up a candle and it goes out, and then she goes up, and only for like half a second you see this hideous like masked figure in like a black robe, and it takes you by surprise, and it's like whoa, and I had to rewind and I'm like, did I just see that? Yeah, I just saw that. That's fucking awesome. So I love shit like that. And like I said, I loved the cottage atmosphere, and I loved the lake side stuff because I'm all about that in the summertime. And this takes place in like the cooler months. Like this is October, November-ish, when everybody's leaving cottage country. So she's basically there. Kate is basically there by herself. She starts to lose touch with reality as well. You start to question if things are in her head, what's reality, what's not. But it's a fun film, and it's got a lot of density to its plot and everything, and it's an interesting story, and it seems like a passion project, and its mood is my favorite thing about it, and then what worked for me the least probably is the acting. Although you can get over it, like it's not distracting bad acting. It's just it is the weakest part of the film, if I'm going to be 100% honest. So it's a lot of fun. You do get full frontal in one scene involving that girl I mentioned. So that's cool to see. It's one of those low budget films that they utilize the budget perfectly. I gave this a 3 out of 5 just because of how well it was made. Like this film is really, really, really well made. This film is shot beautifully. It's full of ideas. It plays with interesting concepts, and it's entertaining. But I like films like this. Like this is my type of cinema. I really like low budget cinema that you can tell everybody behind it's a horror fan and loves the genre and just loves making movies and puts their heart and soul into it. Like you can feel the heart and soul put into this film, and I liked that about it a lot. So yeah, that's Lake Eerie from 2016, and I think it's a cool film, and I think it's one worth checking out if you could find it somewhere. Support indie cinema because indie cinema rocks, and it's a spooky good time, and it's a perfect film for this time of year. Absolutely, October, November. This is the kind of cinema that should be playing on your screens. So that's what I got for now. That's day 25. Until tomorrow's review, check out what's on the channel already for 31 Days of Horror of 2024, and check out the previous years as well. And subscribe if you like what you're seeing. And until next review, until tomorrow, keep things spooky. Cheers.